All right, Kelly. HR Heretics segment on Google firing protesters. So here's the story about what happened. About 30 people occupied the office of Thomas Kurian, who's the CEO of Google Cloud, in protest over a contract that they have with Israel. They were in his office for like 9 hours. They wouldn't leave. They had to be forcefully removed from the office. Google ended up firing 30 of those people who were in the office and then about 20 more folks who were involved later. What I think is really interesting is the note that the head of security ended up sending out after this, which a couple of lines from it says, "We are a place of business, and every Googler is expected to read our policies and apply them and how they conduct themselves and communicate in our workplace." It says, "The company takes this extremely seriously, and we will continue to apply our longstanding policies to take action against disruptive behavior up to and including termination." What's your take on this one, Kelly?
This has been erupting all over as well, Nolan, with universities and whatnot. I may have been watching it pretty closely. I think the Google piece is interesting. My personal take, to be honest with you, is I would never barricade an executive's office in protest. I just, maybe it's how I was raised, maybe it's my generation. I think there is something unique about thinking that that is a productive way to do things. Now, I love protesting. I've done it many times. I did it in the Bay Area when Proposition 8 was on the ballot, et cetera. I'm full appreciation of protesting. What I want to delineate with you on this segment is there's a difference in the how of that protesting and doing it in a place of work that is distracting and or disruptive, hopefully not violent. However, we should get into it because I think doing that in a place of work like that, I think is a different level.
Yeah. My take on this is peaceful protest is a bedrock of our democracy. And it is important that we maintain peaceful protest as a right for every American to take part in. The line it crosses is, for me, is your employer. And peaceful protesting at work is not a bedrock of our democracy. Like, you can go protest on your own time, and those rights should be upheld, and you should be able to do those things. But the moment that you bring it into the workplace and that you disrupt work, I think is the moment that absolutely those people are going to get terminated. And what I think has surprised me around how the protesters have responded is, if it was me and I was doing that, I would have expected to get fired. And I would have used that martyrdom to then say, look, like, they fired me. That's how much I believe in this cause. Like, that's why this is super important to me. And in fact, they've actually taken the opposite approach. They have filed a lawsuit with the National Labor Relations Board for wrongful termination. And
yes,
for me, this is peak entitlement in tech. You're going to go occupy your CEO's office for 9 hours and expect to maintain employment? That is, I don't know what world we're living in, but that's a joke.
Yeah. The NLRB, by the way, I haven't said that acronym since grad school, like 50 years ago. Look, I mean, there's a few layers here, Nolan. Like, one is just a reasonable human. How can a reasonable human choose to barricade an executive's office and think that that's nothing more than bringing your whole self to work? I don't buy it. I really don't. The second is, I think, is interesting, is the employment contract. So if I'm just, again, bringing in the lawyer in me, which is basically nothing or nil, the employment contract, you're getting paid to do a job. So at the very foundation, and people might disagree, in black and white, you are paid to do a job, and in the past, tough elections, hard, like, world events, situations, we have said many of my companies I've been head of people at, go take a day off, go do what you need to do, take time, do nothing, go protest. Like, that is very important. I do think that is a staple of our democracy, and it's very important. That is much different than what is happening here on campus at a workplace. And we've talked about keeping these things separate, as much as we can, or providing rightful space to do this. But I'd love to talk to this person who said, they say Google is a place where you can bring your whole self to work. And that's not true anymore. That is insane to me. That, again, the entitlement and thinking that is within the consideration set of bringing your whole self to work. And I think Google is kicking back. We talked about it. Google's not the nice, fluffy, lenient parent anymore. And they said Google leadership is shifting the pendulum a bit here.
I think this is a bellwether for tech. Whether we like it or not, Google does lead the way with how every tech company manages their employees. And, at first it was like free lunches, and then it was nap pods, and everyone's copying what Google has done for the last 20 years. And I think a lot of people shit on Google now as this really soft place to work. And I've done that myself. For me, it appears that they have actually drawn a red line and said, we've had enough. We are not going to accept this behavior anymore. We are going to draw a line and say, if you disrupt work, if you disrupt your colleagues, we are going to terminate you. Mm-hmm. And I think for me and you, as we talk about this stuff and we think about how it applies to our companies, that's not surprising. I think it's very surprising to people who have thought of as Google as this safe haven to bring your politics into the workplace and to express those politics however you want to. And what I hear from Sundar, as the CEO of Google now, is no, that is not this workplace anymore. Yeah. And we are not going to accept this behavior anymore.
Hey, everyone. We'll be right back in a moment after a word from our sponsors.
There's a world where your CRM is powerful, easily configured, and deeply intuitive. Attio makes that a reality. Attio is a radically new CRM built specifically for the new era of companies. It's flexible, easily configures to your unique data structures, works for any go-to-market motion from self-serve to sales-led. Attio automatically enriches your contacts, syncs your emails and calendar, lets you create powerful reports, and quickly build Zapier-style automations. The next era of companies deserves more than a one-size-fits-all CRM with an outdated UX. Join 11 labs, replicate, modal, and more. Try Attio instantly at attio.com. That's ATTIO.com, and tell them Nolan and Kelly from HR Heretics sent you.
Right. I think this is an escalated version of what we've talked about many months ago, right? And separating work and politics and, to the point where it might become a distraction or uncomfortable or et cetera. And this is the physical version of what we talked about before, which is Slacks and, tweets and all of these things. And I think it does represent a change though, Nolan, because it does say, right, years ago, Google's response in the past was to literally have kumbaya sit downs with employees that would do this. Almost like you'd see on an episode, right, at Hooli in Silicon Valley, things like that. They would do this, and they're shifting that. And I can't help but think this is connected to a broader shift that we've been talking about tolerance, companies' views on this, wanting to keep things separate when they reach a certain line or point. And I think that line has shifted in a lot of companies.
It absolutely has. And I think part of the reason why is because it's distracting. I've said it a number of times. Obviously we've had LJ from Coinbase on. We've talked to him about it. Me personally, I want to go to work and I want to solve business problems. And I think that's increasingly more so for more people as we've ran the experiment to bring politics in the workplace. And I think what we're finding is that experiment, which was run for a solid 10 years, is not productive to building business. It's not helpful.
Now, right. Now, you know me. I tend to kind of look at all the angles and maybe be a little bit softer than you on some things. Like if I was in that Google leadership team, would I have said, listen, is maybe even before this happened, right? Because the Gaza and the Israel Palestine, I mean, this has been going on for a while. It's been heating up. We've been feeling it even the past few weeks specifically. And would I have said, look, should we think about creating space on campus? Yes. For an organized, peaceful protest that's managed, etc. Could we think about that? Right? And that is bringing it into work, but it's different than, right, this wild barricading in offices. I would have brought that up. Could that be an option to meet in the middle, especially to let off some steam and allow this expression on either side? That's something that I think could have been discussed. Very different than what I've read about what happened.
So my issue with that is, especially with this conflict, is that if you create the space to do it on one side, then you have to create the space to do it on the other side. Yeah. And I think you're creating literally warring factions inside of your company. And what as I've talked to friends about this, what I think is really interesting is as you actually have conversations with people outside of work and in your personal life, look, it's a heated topic for sure. But just like in politics in our country, I think people are a lot closer together on solutions than what you would read in the media or what you would see on TV. Mm-hmm. And so I actually really worry about doing stuff like that because I feel like you bring more division into it. And I think you create like, well, you did it for them, now you have to do it for us, or you picked a side sort of a thing. And I'll just default back that like, I think what we have learned is that politics in the workplace is just distracting and it creates more problems. And that's why Google has now earned the right to solve this problem, is because they've allowed it for so long.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get and empathize the hard line, we're done decision to avoid any of that. I get it. I continue to think about and present the question, are there ways to create spaces to express in peaceful ways versus 100% keep out? But I understand why, and it's cleaner and it's easier. We just talked about this in their segment that you try to control everything, things happen anyway, right? People are so it's a really hard thing. I just don't know that I'm on the full all or nothing spectrum.
I think you're getting closer, though. You've evolved.
I'm getting close. I'm just saying, though, if employees think that behavior is okay, and to your point, like nothing's going to happen when I do this because I'm bringing my whole self to work, I think that is completely insane.
It's entitled. It is the definition of entitlement, which is I'm going to disrupt work and expect that, I still have my job. Yeah. And so I do think we're seeing a really big change happening in Silicon Valley with the employer employment contract. And what do employees expect from employers is not the same thing that they've expected for the last 10 years. And I think moving forward, it's going to be much more brass tacks of, we expect you to do this job, and we expect you to do it with really high performance, and we expect you to not cause distractions in the workplace. And
yeah, I see the leash shortening for sure.
Yep. So that's what's happening. So let us know what your take is. Let us know what your thoughts on this is. And we're excited to keep the conversation going.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
HR Heretics is a podcast from Turpentine, the network behind Econ 102, Moment of Zen, and Turpentine VC. Subscribe, 5 stars, share it on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts, all the things.